Hey buddies, it is PS4 day. I'm actually recording this the evening before, so this is the 19th for me, but I'm going to talk as though it's the morning when I post this. I'm recording this ahead of time because I'm worried that I might not get enough sleep tonight because I'm doing the show and trailer for tomorrow, prepping it. But I'm going to talk as though it is right now when you're seeing it. Yesterday, we played Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and I made that joke many times throughout the playthrough, so that'll be the last time I make it. Played Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and it was awesome. I loved the game. I was a little worried about it. So was the company that made it. Konami kind of fired the first studio, which was their internal studio, I guess. I don't actually know that exact info, but the first guys who worked on it weren't able to make the slicing component work in the game. They kind of had this, I guess, monstrosity of stealth game combined with hack and slash, and the hacking and slashing, or the slicing anything, the Zenzetsu, I think they called it, felt tagged on and felt slow and clunky and didn't make any sense. So they passed it on. They ended up ripping it out of their hands, passed it on to Platinum Games, who made Beautiful Joe and Bayonetta. And they've been doing pretty much no wrong lately. All the stuff they've come out with in the last, ever, I feel like is a hit. And this is no exception. They did a great job with this. They really picked it up. The slicing, get it right out of the way right away. Feels awesome, looks awesome, and it doesn't feel tagged on. In fact, I said during the playthrough that it almost feels as though instead of, some people were worried that it slows down the action, like you're slicing really fast, and all of a sudden it slows down time and you have to slice a whole bunch. Well, first of all, you don't have to slice at all if you don't want to. You can just keep on playing the game. You get bonuses for doing the slicing, including health, and it charges up your slice meter, which is a slice mode that you go into. You have to charge up your meter first. So potentially what you could do is chain slice modes so that you just sluicing through all the little guys. You can't sluice through every little guy. Humans you can. Other guys you have to whittle down a little bit first, and then when a part of their body starts glowing, then you can start to slice it up. Anyways, that stuff I felt as though was just a nice change of pace. It makes it so that the gameplay isn't that monotonous, in fact. It slows it down for some cool, awesome, like, holy shit moments, and then you go back to all the slicing around, and it's also nice that it makes it so that all of that chaff, all of those little peons that you have to slice through in these types of games, that do feel trivial in some ways. They are just there to give you life, in essence. You're not worried about them. You're not spending time on them. You're spending as much time as you feel like spending on them. And that's how it should be in a hack and slash game, because you want to feel powerful. You don't want to feel as though these little guys in your way are actually getting in your way. You're way too badass for that. And that's what I felt like in Devil May Cry. I felt as though these little guys were just like, why are they taking so much time to take down? Like, I'm awesome. In the cutscene, I just watched Dante take down this giant ass fucking demon, but now he has to spend like 2 minutes slicing up like 5 little guys that are coming around like cherubim. I'm gonna be doing a lot of comparing to Devil May Cry, mainly because it's the last hack and slash I played, and second of all, I had trouble coming to terms with the fact that I didn't like Devil May Cry, even though I considered it to be kind of a solid game, and I had to really kind of figure out what it was about it that I didn't like. And almost everything that I didn't like about Devil May Cry is addressed in the exact opposite way in Metal Gear Solid Rising. Things like the actual feeling of the slicing. I feel like I'm tearing through flesh with metal, which is, in my opinion, that's how it should feel when you're playing a hack and slash. I like that feeling a lot more than metal on metal. I was actually really worried going into this that the metal on metal feel would be even more like exacerbated in this, because it is metal on metal. But all of these cyborg things have blood in them, so they really stayed away from the sound effect and the feel of metal on metal. I felt like it feels like you're just slicing through flesh, which is great. It sounds so out of context. This sounds really morbid and a little psychotic, but that's how I want it. I want to hear the we felt a lot of that. The pacing was amazing. And again, to compare, I don't want this to be completely about Devil May Cry, but Devil May Cry felt sort of repetitive very quickly early on in the game. In Metal Gear Rising, it was within like the first half hour we had gone up against what felt like 3 or 4 boss battles. They may not have been boss battles. I mean, like the introduction of I don't want to spoil it, but no, I'm going to assume that you've already seen the playthrough. Within the first half hour, we played against a giant Metal Gear unit. We played against little Metal Gear units, which were their own like learning curve. Even though they're not a boss, it was the introduction of them. It felt like a boss. We went up against another guy with a sword that we actually had to fight back and forth. And then, like, I guess in about 45 minute mark, we went up against the kitty, which I'm sure you saw in the trailers. He's actually supposed to be a dog, but he's metal guy. We went up against helicopters, and then we went up against a second mode of the Metal Gear. The point is, in Devil May Cry, like, there was one boss battle, and then, like, it took a half hour for the next boss battle, and then it took another, like, half hour. It was really far apart, but in Metal Gear Rising, it feels like they're just nonstop throwing something new at you. The cutscenes are very interesting, but brief. The characters are awesome and weird and kind of goofy. We had a long discussion on the show whether the goofiness was intended or unintentional. Given the history of Platinum Games, the chat and I guess we came to the consensus that it was all intentional, but there's still moments where I'm still thinking the cheese might not have been completely intentional. It feels like it's not taking itself too seriously, though. Metal Gear has had that in the past. Not quite to this extent. Metal Gear Solid is a little more serious than this, but I'm not going to spoil the moment where I said on the show, this is what it was. If you've seen our Phoenix Wright playthrough, it was the Phoenix getting hit in the face with the toupee moment that made me finally give in 100% to this game and to Raiden, who I had reservations about. Like, the guy, reservations. I mean, in the announcement video for the game, I made fun of him with Baby Hank. Like, Ben and I have, it's in the intro to our playthrough, our rant about Raiden and why. Watch that and you'll see. But Raiden came around for me. He's still a little weird. The voice acting's kind of all over the place with him. It's not like they're not quite sure what they want him to be, but I didn't hate him. And I kind of liked him. I thought he was okay. He's good. And the Metal Gear Solid universe continues to feel like Metal Gear universe. It's a little more high-tech now, but that's because it's taking place in the future, I think. I forget the date. But it's got some great characters, too, so far. I think that the story, there's a lot of cliches. The story feels very cliche so far. We haven't seen even the beginning of it. We haven't seen it begin to flesh out completely, but I feel like it's going very typical places. But I don't care. I mean, we're in it for the wow. It feels a lot like Azura's Wrath in some ways, there's just always something over the top happening, really awesome, that you can go, whoa, to like, oh, snap, kind of stuff. Those types of moments. I have heard that the campaign, though, is only like 5 hours long. Some people say that they don't count the cutscenes, so you might be able to add an hour to that or something. Of course, this game has built itself around replayability. It wants you to go through and get the better ranks, S rank or whatever, on every single thing. If you're into that sort of thing, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of playability out of it. If you're just a one playthrough, watch the story, feel like a badass for one playthrough type of person like me, I'd say that the price point of $60 is a little steep. You'd probably want to wait a little while till it comes down before you want to play through this for the campaign. But so far from what I can see, it's going to be a hell of a ride and probably worth your money when you do decide to buy it. Anything else to say about it? It feels good. There's a couple of little quirks in it. It has a little bit of a learning curve, first of all. The tutorials are very surface, and I know that a lot of people are going to be saying that I just didn't pay attention, but if you go back, they either very briefly mention things that you need to learn, or they don't enforce it through a tutorial, or like make sure you know it before you go to the next part, or they don't even mention it at all. And there are things they don't mention at all that you need to learn. So you're going to have to do some Googling, or the instruction book's not going to help you, or figure it out on your own. You can come to logical conclusions about the mechanics and the little intricacies of the game as you go along, I think, if you're just to think about it. It takes practice. It's challenging. It can be frustrating, but not in a bad way. Just frustrating because, like, the guys are hard, but the guys that I found really hard, I didn't feel like were... what do you call that word? tedious. They weren't tedious. They were just difficult. They were challenging. And I eventually just have to figure out their patterns and check it out. If I weren't playing it on show, I would have spent more time with these baddies and like tried to figure out their patterns and counter all their moves. Countering is way more satisfying than just dodging all the time, but dodging ends up being your de facto when you're up against a new baddie because you still don't know his everything that he can do and his timing and stuff. So that's kind of getting into the nitty gritty though. On the surface, and this was a first look, it is an awesome game. Totally worth its rating. It's getting like an 80% from most critics. I'd say it's worth that. Yeah, I'd say it's worth that. It's like maybe dock it a few points for its brevity. So maybe I'd put it at about a 70. Again, I'm only going from secondhand information for that. So that's your first look. It's an awesome game. Watch the playthrough. I think you'll enjoy it. It's fun. We have a blast all the way through. It's a very much like an Asura's Wrath playthrough. Today, that being tomorrow for when I'm recording this, but today I will be going live, watching the press conference, the Sony press conference. Join me there at 3 o'clock Pacific time if you'd like to watch it with me. And if you want to watch the more dramatic unveiling on our show and trailer style, 7 o'clock tonight Pacific time. See you there. And I love you, and have fun with PlayStation 4 Day. See you later, guys.